I think this was a very important framework which you provided, and maybe a small contribution in this respect. I would like to share something with you. So, maybe focusing on a narrower version of the Islamic countries and offering a proposal as such, it would really be very helpful. So, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, thank you very much, Mehmet Emin Koçak. Distinguished attendees, ladies and gentlemen, this is bringing us to the end of our session, and I am sure you enjoyed the presentations as much as I did, which all of the presentations were very useful, very helpful. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our panelists. Unfortunately, we don't have any time, and we're completely actually beyond our time. Therefore, we can't have a Q&A session. And now, in order to moderate the next session, I would like to call up Professor Dr. Yakup Bulut as the moderator of the next session. Okay, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you very much, Professor Ensar. And you actually respected time, and you are actually setting a great example for the upcoming panel. That would be perfect, because this is on a digital platform. We have to be very careful about this. Well, one wishes that we had time for Q&A, but we have great presentations. And I think this webinar in a pandemic such as COVID-19 is very timely. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank ASSAM President General Adnan and the organization committee, Ersan Bey, and all the other colleagues whose names I don't have time to mention. Kütahya University, Üsküdar University, and their rectors. So this is the 4th edition, and I did my best to participate in all of those webinars. Well, the specialties, the fields are rather distinct from one another, but the awareness of Islam, the consciousness of Islam, it's mentioned, it's discussed, and gradually there is a paradigm shift. That's what I said in the previous edition. And my hopes are rising up every time, and there is no simply reason for despair. Allah gave us mind and reason. So this is actually what we should do for this cause within a certain methodology. We need to simply put forward our arguments so that the whole world would know that, well, specifically, well, you know, the main objective of Islam is human. And I love simply the method of deduction. And I believe that is going to be simply possible through events such as this. Without further ado, in order to respect time, I just wanted to give the floor to our panelists. And in the previous session, Mansour El Amani from Niger was added to our session, and Oğuzhan Akyener was in the previous session. So there was sort of actually no change in the number of presentations of the speakers. Maximum 15 minutes per speaker, but please try to simply obey and respect the time. Otherwise, we don't have time for Q&A, and you know we are already delayed when you look at the overall program. So the first speaker is now Asım OZTURK from Turkey. Within the collective defense context, Supra-Regional Collective Defense Architecture is going to be the title. Thank you very much. Once again, distinguished general, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce myself for the newcomers. I'm Asım OZTURK. I'm a PhD candidate at Istanbul Medeniyet University in the international relationships, and I'm focusing on a number of topics such as defense and safety and security. And it's a pride and joy for me to be a speaker in this fourth edition of ASSAM conference. In my previous presentation, I talked about African Union, but this is going to be sort of actually a general topic, which is going to be on the collective architecture of the collective defense. So the Islamic Union and the capacity it will provide. So I will do my best to offer a projection. So this is a supra-regional network of defense, and this is very important in terms of offering a projection in this respect.
Savunma bağlamında İslam Birliği Bölgeler Üssü Kolektif Savunma Mimarisi başlıklı çalışmayı 3 başlık altında.
So now it has three subheadings: collective defense, Islamic Union in the context of collective defense, and supra-regional collective defense network and architecture. As you could see, well, actually, I have talked about this in the previous presentation, but for the newcomers, collective defense or collective self-defense means the reconciliation against states or group of states which are posing a threat against the national interests. And in case there is an attack towards any state or government, any country, then there is this support which is granted to the member state according to the international agreements that is designated in a number of resolutions. For example, this is recognized by the international law, but for example, in Article 51 of the United Nations Agreement, we see that is defined. So these are the primary security alliances, NATO and EU. We see European Union, and we have Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We have EU, AU, African Union, and we have UNASUR for the South America Council of Security. So geographically speaking, and looking at this map, the regional defense schemes, NATO is one scheme. For example, Latin America is another one, Africa, and this is the Central Asia. And politically speaking, we have the complexes of the collective defense. So this is the analysis we have. In the New World Order, maybe is this going to be bringing forward yet another new order through the collective complexes of self-defense. So when we look at the collective defense, mainly these are regional. In the aftermath of the Cold War, from that bipolar structure, we are going through a multipolar structure, and they are already existing, geographically speaking, in the world. And regional collective defense schemes are simply available in the geographical sense, and in the political sense, in the Central Asia, we see the gray areas are the lacking ones, and particularly an agreement or alliance based in the headquarter in the Middle East could be very critical, maybe led by Turkey. And Middle East and North Africa is in a turmoil situation. And given the conflict in the Islamic countries, it's not very realistic to simply consider a union which is only encompassing all of the Islamic countries, but there is such a need. That is also a fact. Then there is this question, two questions actually. So if all of the Islamic countries can't gather together, then shall we simply step away and stay away from the idea of a union, or shall we simply delay this idea until all of the Muslim countries are involved in this? So when we look at the current situation, when states are alone and solitary, and when they don't have sufficient communication among or between one another, unfortunately, they are exposed to strategies such as fragment, divide and manage, or swallow. And that has resulted in the weakening of the Islamic world and the oppression faced by the Muslims. So if the conditions are feasible, then the states should not be deprived of a union, and at least the essentials of a union should be placed, and there should be a way which is paid for further work. And the existing international bilateral relations should be expanded, and it is inevitable that the multidimensional relationships and this advancement towards a union is inevitable. And we need to simply understand the fact that when there is a defense and architecture and network among Islam countries, then this is definitely going to reinforce the position of each and every Islam country, Muslim country. So now Islamic Union within the context of collective defense. So the intellectual infrastructure or rationale is very important. Why we need such a union? Essentially, it is an existential questioning in this respect. So one of the first responses is the common enemy. We heard from one of the previous panelists as well. Resisting against common enemy. So there's this idea. However, particularly, this is very much based on simply putting your existence vis-a-vis the other. So it should be also, I think, possible, and it is possible for Muslims to exist without the existence or the presence of another. So under the Tawhid idea, they should be able to come together and support one another. So this union should not be based on one enemy or on the other per se. And that means that they will be sustainably maintain their presence. So on an existential basis, like raison d'être. And when we look at the fact that even though the Muslim community's union is not compulsory for the states, but when we have such a union, it would be very significant when it has a political correspondence to that, because when there is disapprobation among different states, this is weakening the states. Whenever we lack a currency, a joint or common currency, and only that on its own is weakening the financial capability of the Muslims. The European Union was able to achieve that. For example, if we had an Islamic Union, our currency would be more valuable, hence more income capability or purchasing power. So this is weakening the Muslim community in so many aspects. And we need to have an administration style which is responsible and accountable, both for the things which were done and the things which were not done. And all of the leaders and the authorities with a certain responsibility need to take part, and they need to be involved. And when there is not a planned or designated union in the Islamic world, this is harming the Muslim community more and more. And when we also consider the presence of the politicians or the leaders who are individually against such an idea of a unity, then that is making things even more problematic. So even though there is a partial or because that has not been attained yet, it is also possible that the conditions are met and the people come together. And at this point, under circumstances where the political equations are excluded, when you consider the population of the Muslim, population ratios of the Muslim people in Northern Africa, Western Africa, Eastern Africa, Sahel Belt, Middle East, Middle Asia, and the Southeastern Asia, we see it's densely populated by the Muslim people. And starting from the Western Africa to the Central Asia, there is this whole crescent. And over here, you see Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, Maldives, and Comorolar are sort of acting as the stars. They are known as the Islamic stars. And because the world is round, this is crescent, and this is the star, which could be seen on the map.
Yani burada
And
koleksiyon
here,
sorduğumuzda Asya
within the
seyahatinde
context of the
Asya
collective
seçeneği
defense,
Asya hattında bir bütünlük
on the
sağlamak
African
üzere
Asian line, there
neredeyse
should
12
be a
ülkenin içinde
geographical
bulunmak istiyoruz.
unity. So it would be awesome. Unfortunately, I have to offer you a suggestion. You have last 2 minutes, so please just try to wrap it up.
Birazcık kısa bir uzatma isteyeceğim yalnız. İletmiş olayım ben de. Siyasi dengeler bu coğrafi unsurun kullanılmasına engel teşkil etmekte. Özellikle.
Unfortunately, the political balances are posing barriers against the use of this geographical aspect, and we need to start working in the Muslim world. And we need to identify the countries with the capacity to do so. Political, military, economical, academic negotiations should start. Turkey primarily and all the other countries need to take responsibilities. DA, Turkey Council, and the Maghrebian Arabic Council are the countries or the unions that we need to mention in this respect. And there has been an initiative to come up with a projection proposal as to how to form a union, and the political conjuncture could immediately change momentarily. So through a template, maybe a procedure should be attained to be put forward. And with then probable union, the actor countries could change and the regions could also change. And necessary computation and capacity should be put forward, and a number of countries were determined in this respect: Turkey, Pakistan, Malaysia, Qatar, Uzbekistan, Libya, Senegal, Sudan, and Hungary have been identified so that they would simply constitute the backbone of a collective defense agreement in this respect. And some regional defense complexes were established, and including the center in the regional defense complexes, there are at least 3 countries. So Western Africa, Northern Africa, and Eastern Africa, Balkan countries, Middle East, Gulf, Central Asia are connected to one another. As you could see on the map, Turkey, Pakistan, Qatar, so Malaysia likewise, Uzbekistan, Hungary are forming the center, as well as Libya, Sudan, and Senegal. So these countries are simply constituting the center. And it's actually a power and defense center. So when opting for the countries, we consider their relationship with Turkey, as well as the regional dynamics and the country data. So the ones which could actively take part, and again, the ones with pins are considered to be observing countries, observer countries. So they're going, and the ones with pluses have to change their political preferences. They could perhaps be involved in the union. So in this respect, the green ones are where the regions are connected to one another. The reds indicate the relationship inside the region. And in this respect, the network model is going to connect the geographically unconnected parts. And these are going to be the micro regions among different Islamic countries that would reinforce regional development and security, and it's going to facilitate the solution of the problems. Coming to the architecture part, so there's going to be a capacity development. Awesome. You have completely beyond your time. That means you have to still, I'm so sorry. We're going to be reading these anyway. So please conclude the presentation with if you give me 3 minutes, how many minutes? 2 minutes, please, because you have completely taken your time and your other speakers' times. So from a collective perspective, there's going to be a capacity, and there's going to be a defense cooperation. and agreements based on defense. There could be a collective agreement in this respect. So when you add them all together, the regions, this is going to be the architecture which we have. And this is the Balkan region, defense complex, Western Africa, regional defense complex, Northern Africa, and Eastern Sahel Africa, and this is Gulf, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and micro-regions. Through micro-regions, we see some regional defense complexes are put forward, and this is called the Islamic Union collective defense architecture. So it's supra-regional. It could be also interpreted as a supra-regional defense architecture projection. It is going to contribute to the resolution of the regional problems in a more active fashion. So when you go to the micro-regions, for example, the hub is Senegal, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone, and Gambia. And in the South Africa, South America, because of the geographical proximity, the countries could be reached over there. So South Africa and Western Africa, and liaison complexes, the Northern Africa and the Eastern Sahel belt. So when you look at the Northern Africa regional defense complex, it's going to be a Maghrebian Arab League or Arabic Union. Libya is going to be the hub. Spain is the observer. Potential member is Egypt, and these are the other complexes with a certain liaison. Coming to Sudan, as you could see, they're as follows. Okay. Okay. In Turkey, Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, and Georgia, I involve those parts because they are the vicinity countries. Yemen is observer. And this is the Turkey Council is offering a very valuable infrastructure. And okay, that's it. So supra-regional complex defense architecture is put forward. In addition to offering the liaison among different states, there is also a three-dimensional projection. And in this respect, actors might change, but methodology-wise, it could be implemented to the new projections. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Asım.